How does a family abandon a man at a highway gas station and still expect him to stay quiet? 3 days after they drove off and laughed about it, they turned on their TV and finally understood why I never called, never begged, never asked them to come back. What they saw on that screen erased every assumption they'd ever made about who I was. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The back seat of our SUV smelled like fast food and stale air freshener. I'd been squeezed behind Mara's seat for the last 2 hours, my knees pressed against the console, while Colin stretched across the passenger side like he owned the entire vehicle. Tessa sat beside me, scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing my way with that look, the one that said I was taking up space she deserved. "Grant, you're breathing so loud," Mara said without turning around. Her voice carried that edge I'd learned to recognize over the past 5 years. Not quite anger, just exhaustion with my existence. "Sorry," I said. Colin laughed. "He's always sorry. You notice that? Like every other word." I wasn't. "See? There it is again." He turned to look at me, grinning. "You apologize for apologizing." Tessa snorted, still focused on her screen. "He apologizes for existing." Mara sighed. "Can we just get through this drive without the commentary?" But she didn't defend me. She never did. I pressed my forehead against the window and watched the highway markers blur past. We were heading to some business event Colin had organized, another networking opportunity that would somehow require my credit card, but none of my input. That was how it worked. I paid. I drove when Mara didn't feel like it. I carried things. I existed on the periphery of their lives, useful but never valued. "There's a gas station coming up," I said quietly. "Of course there is," Colin muttered. "Can't go 2 hours without a bathroom break." "I'm just saying." "We know, Grant." Mara's fingers drummed the steering wheel. "We always know what you're just saying." The SUV's turn signal clicked as she changed lanes. The gas station sign grew larger ahead, one of those generic highway stops with fluorescent lights and a convenience store that sold everything and nothing. Mara pulled up to a pump and cut the engine. 5 minutes, she said. "That's it." I climbed out, grateful for the fresh air and the chance to straighten my legs. The sun was setting, painting everything orange and purple. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like the backdrop to something ending. Inside the convenience store, the air conditioning hit me like a wall. I nodded to the clerk, a younger man with dark eyes and a name tag that read Rami, and headed toward the restroom in the back. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Everything smelled like cleaning solution and burnt coffee. When I came back out 3 minutes later, I grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler and approached the counter. "Just this," I said, pulling out my wallet. Rami scanned the bottle. "Long drive?" "Yeah, family trip." "Those can be rough." He handed me my change with a slight smile, the kind that suggested he understood more than I'd said. I walked back outside, unscrewing the cap on the water bottle. The parking space was empty. I stopped, staring at the concrete pad where our SUV had been. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. Maybe Mara had moved to a different spot. Maybe she'd gone to park in the shade. Then I saw them. The SUV was rolling toward the highway exit, maybe 50 yards away. Not speeding, just leaving. And through the rear window, I could see Colin turned around in his seat, watching me. Even from that distance, I could see him grinning. Beside him, Tessa had her phone up, recording. The SUV merged onto the highway and disappeared. I stood there, water bottle in hand, and waited for something to happen. For them to realize. For them to come back. Nothing. A minute passed, then another. I walked back inside the convenience store. Rami looked up from his magazine. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just waiting." He studied me for a moment, then gestured toward a small seating area near the windows, 2 plastic chairs, and a table with old coffee rings. "You can sit there if you want. No rush." "Thanks." I sat down facing the parking lot and the highway beyond. My phone was in my pocket. I could feel its weight. I pulled it out and looked at the screen. No messages, no missed calls. I opened my contacts and scrolled to Mara's name. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then I locked the screen and set the phone on the table. The TV mounted in the corner was playing the evening news, something about traffic delays on the interstate. I watched without really seeing, my mind strangely calm. Not empty, just clear. Rami approached with a coffee pot. "Want some? It's free if you're waiting for someone." "I'm good. Thank you." He nodded and walked back to the counter, but I caught him glancing my way a few times. concerned maybe, or just curious why someone would sit in a gas station convenience store doing nothing. The truth was simple. I had nowhere to go, no car, no one coming back for me. And somehow, for the first time in years, that felt like something other than a problem. It felt like a beginning. The news anchor's voice cut through my thoughts. Transportation officials are monitoring a potential system disruption that could affect freight and commuter routes across 3 counties. More details as this story develops. I looked up at the screen, then back at my phone. Something in my chest shifted. Not panic, not rage, just a quiet recognition that a line had been crossed. They'd finally done it. They'd made their position clear in a way that couldn't be explained away or softened with excuses. I wasn't family. I wasn't even human to them. I was something they could leave behind at a gas station and laugh about. The fluorescent lights hummed, the coffee machine gurgled, and I sat there, perfectly still, while my mind began turning through options I'd never allowed myself to consider before. Outside, the sky darkened. Inside, I waited. Memory works in strange ways. Sometimes it protects you by blurring the edges of painful moments. Sometimes it sharpens them until every detail becomes a weapon. Sitting in that gas station, I found myself thinking about a dinner 6 months earlier. Our kitchen, white cabinets, granite countertops Mara had insisted we install, even though I was the one who'd paid for them. Colin had been visiting for the week, supposedly working on his latest business venture, but mostly sleeping until noon and criticizing how I loaded the dishwasher. We'd ordered pizza, 4 different kinds because everyone had specific preferences that couldn't possibly overlap. I'd suggested we just get 2 large pizzas and share, but Mara had given me that look. Not everything has to be a budget crisis grant. So 4 pizzas. $87 with delivery and tip. We'd sat around the table, boxes spread open, and Colin had launched into some story about a potential investor he'd met at a networking event. Tessa had interrupted 3 times to show us things on her phone, photos from some party, a video she'd posted that had gotten decent engagement, screenshots of comments from followers. I'd eaten my pizza quietly, occasionally nodding when someone looked my way. "You're so quiet," Mara had said at one point, and there was no warmth in the observation, just resignation. "You never contribute to the conversation." "I'm listening." "That's not the same thing." Colin had leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Honestly, man, you're lucky we include you. Most people would feel awkward sitting here like a statue." "He's like furniture," Tessa had added, not even looking up from her phone. "Just kind of there." And Mara hadn't corrected them. She just sighed and reached for another slice, and that silence had been louder than any agreement could have been. The worst part? I'd helped Colin clear the table afterward. I'd loaded the dishwasher the way he'd told me to, even though my original method was perfectly fine. I'd thanked Mara for including me in family dinner. I'd thanked her. Rami was closing up the cash register for shift change when I finally stood and stretched. My back cracked. 3 hours had passed since they'd left me. "You sure you're okay?" he asked. "I need to find a motel. Something nearby?" He pulled out his phone and showed me a map. "There's a place about 2 miles west. Nothing fancy, but it's clean." "That's perfect. You want me to call you a taxi?" "I can walk." He looked at me like I was crazy, but he didn't argue, just nodded and went back to his work. The walk took 40 minutes. The night air was cool, and the highway noise created a constant white noise that helped me think. By the time I reached the motel, a single-story strip with peeling paint and a neon vacancy sign, I'd made several decisions. First, I wouldn't call. Not Mara, not Colin, not even my brother Owen. Not yet. Second, I'd take stock of what I actually had. The motel room cost $42 for the night. The man at the desk didn't ask questions, just handed me a key attached to a plastic diamond and pointed toward room 14. The room smelled like old carpet and industrial cleaner, but the bed was firm and the TV worked. I sat on the edge of the mattress and pulled out my phone. Still no messages. I opened social media, something I rarely used, but Tessa had insisted I create accounts to stay connected. Her latest post was from 30 minutes ago, a photo of her and Colin in the SUV, grinning, with a caption that made my jaw tighten. "Finally got some peace and quiet. Sometimes you just need to leave the burdens behind and breathe. Weekend officially started." 200 likes already. Comments full of laughing emojis and people asking what happened. She'd responded to one. "Long story, but trust me, we're so much better off." I locked my phone and set it face down on the nightstand. The anger I expected didn't come. Instead, I felt something colder, clearer. I thought about my workplace, the logistics planning office where I'd spent the last 8 years building routing systems that kept freight moving across half the state. Systems that coordinated deliveries, optimized fuel consumption, predicted bottlenecks before they happened. My boss, Lyle Drummond, had called me indispensable. If you ever leave Grant, we're finished. You know that, right? But at home, I was treated like I didn't matter. I opened my laptop, a personal one I kept separate from work, and navigated to an old email folder I hadn't touched in years. Files from when I'd first developed the core algorithm that my current company had licensed. Documentation from the patent attorney I'd consulted. Correspondence with HR about intellectual property rights. Everything was still there. Backed up, dated, verified. I'd created something valuable, and, acting far too naive, I'd let it sit unused while I played the role of grateful husband and convenient stepfather. A notification popped up on my phone, a message from work. I opened it. Internal systems update scheduled for Friday. All senior logistics staff, please review the attached protocol changes and confirm receipt by Thursday. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I opened my calendar and noted something I'd forgotten. The quarterly system review was in 72 hours. Every 3 months, the entire transportation network went through a comprehensive check. Routes verified, access permissions reviewed, licensing agreements confirmed. And I was the one who managed those reviews. I closed my laptop and lay back on the motel bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling. They thought they'd left me behind. They thought I was stranded, helpless, maybe even panicking by now. They had no idea what they'd actually done. Morning came with weak sunlight through thin curtains. I'd slept better than I had in months. No one snoring, no one stealing the blankets, no early morning arguments about whose turn it was to make coffee. I showered, dressed in yesterday's clothes, and walked to a diner across the street. 2 eggs, toast, coffee. The waitress was friendly without being intrusive. I left a good tip. By 9 a.m., I was at the public library downtown. It was a 20-minute bus ride from the motel, and the building itself was one of those renovated historic structures with high ceilings and good natural light. I found a quiet workspace station in the back corner, logged into the guest Wi-Fi, and got to work. First, personal inventory. I had my wallet, phone, laptop, and the clothes I was wearing. My bank account showed a healthy balance, more than Mara knew about because I'd learned years ago to keep one account private. The monthly deposits from the licensing agreement for my routing algorithm went there, not a fortune, but enough to live on for several months without worrying. Second, documentation review. I pulled up every file related to the intellectual property I'd created. The original algorithm specifications, the patent application, the licensing agreement with my current employer, email chains proving authorship and development timeline. Everything was clean, everything was mine. Third, reconnaissance. I opened Tessa's social media again. More posts, more jokes about letting go of the burden. Colin had shared one with his own commentary. When you finally convince Mom to drop the anchor, weekend is lit. They'd made it to their destination, some lakeside resort 2 hours north. Photos showed them laughing on a deck, drinks in hand. Mara looked happier than I'd seen her in years. I scrolled through comments, friends asking where I was, Colin responding, "Trust me, nobody's missing him." I saved screenshots of everything. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I searched for Colin's business registration. It took 15 minutes to find it. His consulting firm was registered 3 months ago under a generic LLC name. The business description made my stomach drop. Transportation logistics consulting and route optimization services. My work. He was planning to sell my work. I dug deeper. Found a draft website that wasn't live yet. CW Logistics Solutions. Cutting-edge route optimization using proprietary algorithms to save you time and money. Proprietary algorithms. Mine. Every single line of code, every calculation method, every optimization technique, I'd developed them over years of careful work. And Colin thought he could just take them, build a business on my foundation without permission, without compensation, without even acknowledgement. My hands were shaking, not from anger, from recognition. This wasn't just cruelty, it was theft. I opened my work email and found a message from 3 weeks ago that I'd skimmed but not fully processed. It was from our legal department, asking me to review and re-sign some licensing documentation. Standard update to reflect current usage and authorization protocols. I'd signed it without thinking much about it. Now I read it carefully. The agreement confirmed that I retained all ownership rights to the core algorithm. The company paid me licensing fees for its use. Any third-party application required my explicit written permission and a separate licensing arrangement. Colin had none of that. He'd just assumed, or Mara had told him, that the system was generic company property he could repurpose. They were wrong. I spent the next 2 hours preparing a file. Screenshots, emails, registration documents, the draft website. Mara's name appeared on Colin's business registration as a co-founder. Of course it did. She'd probably encouraged this. Seen it as their ticket to financial independence from the boring man who paid their bills. My phone buzzed. A text from Owen, my brother. "Hey, you okay? Mara just called asking if I'd heard from you. Said you disappeared from a gas station yesterday. What's going on?" I stared at that message for a full minute. Then I typed back, "I'm fine. Don't worry. I'll explain soon." "You sure?" She sounded worried. "She's not." 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, "Okay, but call me if you need anything. I mean it." "I will, thanks." I locked my phone and went back to work. The library closed at 6. I gathered my things, thanked the librarian at the desk, and walked back to the bus stop. The evening air was cool, carrying the smell of rain. At the motel, I ordered takeout, Chinese food from a place 2 blocks away. I ate slowly, thinking through the next steps. Tomorrow I'd visit the bank, then the city permit office. I needed to confirm certain details about how deeply my system was integrated into local infrastructure. I needed to verify the paper trail. But tonight, I just needed to be clear about what this was. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was reclamation. The bank opened at 9. I was there at 8:50, waiting outside with my coffee. The branch manager, a woman named Patricia, who I'd worked with years ago when setting up the licensing account, greeted me with a warm smile. "Grant, it's been ages. How are you?" "I'm well. I need to review some account statements." "Of course. Come on back." Her office was small but organized. She pulled up my accounts on her computer while I sat across from her, hands folded. "The licensing account has been pretty active," she noted. "Regular deposits every month? You haven't touched it in, wow, almost 3 years? I've been meaning to. Life got busy." She printed out the statements, 36 months of deposits. The licensing fees had increased over time as my employer expanded their use of the system. The current balance made my breath catch. Patricia noticed. "You didn't know?" "I knew there were deposits. I didn't realize how much it had grown." She smiled. "That's a nice surprise, then. You've got enough here to make some moves if you wanted. Investment opportunities, maybe?" "Maybe. Can I get copies of the original account agreements? Everything showing where the deposits come from?" "Sure. Give me a few minutes." While she printed documents, I checked my phone. A text from Mara, finally. "Where are you? This isn't funny anymore." I deleted it without responding. Another text appeared immediately. "Colin thinks you're being dramatic. You need to stop this and come home." Home. That word had lost all meaning. Patricia returned with a folder full of paperwork. "Everything's here. Deposit sources, licensing agreement references, your original signature on the account setup. You need anything else?" "This is perfect, thank you." Outside, the morning sun was bright and warm. I took the bus to City Hall, a gray stone building downtown with columns and marble steps. Inside, the permit office was on the 3rd floor, a cramped space full of filing cabinets and busy clerks. I approached the front desk. "I need to review transportation routing permits," I said. "Specifically freight corridor licensing for the Northern District." The clerk, a tired-looking man in his 50s, raised an eyebrow. "You a lawyer?" "Logistics planner. I need to verify some documentation for a review." He sighed, but turned to his computer. "Name?" "Grant Hale." His expression changed slightly. "Oh, you're the Hale system guy." "That's right. Hold on." He stood and disappeared into the back. 5 minutes later, he returned with a thick binder. "Most of this is public record anyway. You want copies of anything specific?" "The integration documentation. Anything showing how the Hale routing system connects to city and county infrastructure." He flipped through the binder. "This is going to be a lot of pages. I'll pay for copies." An hour and $63 later, I walked out with a folder so thick I needed both hands to carry it. Inside was proof of everything I needed. Maps showing my routing system as the backbone of 3-county freight coordination. Letters from the city acknowledging the system's role in reducing traffic congestion. County supervisor reports crediting the algorithm with improved emergency response times. My work, my system, my name on every document. I sat on the city hall steps and opened my laptop, connecting through my phone's hotspot. The quarterly system review was now 48 hours away. I pulled up the access logs for the main routing database. There were entries I didn't recognize. Access attempts from an IP address outside the company network. Unsuccessful so far, but persistent. The timestamps matched up with Colin's business registration date. He'd been trying to get into the system, Probably thought he could download the algorithm and rebrand it. He'd failed, but only because the security protocols I'd built were solid. I made notes, timestamps, IP addresses, access attempt logs. Then I did something I'd never done before. I contacted our legal department directly. Hi, this is Grant Hale from Logistics Planning. I need to speak with someone about potential intellectual property concerns related to my licensed algorithm. The receptionist transferred me. A lawyer named Stevens picked up. Mr. Hale, what's going on? I've discovered unauthorized access attempts to the routing system database. I believe someone is trying to steal the algorithm for commercial use. Silence on the other end. Then, that's a serious allegation. Do you have documentation? Extensive. Can we meet tomorrow? I'll make time. 2 p.m.? Perfect. I hung up and sat back, watching people come and go from City Hall. Families, professionals, people living normal lives where they weren't erased by the people closest to them. My phone buzzed again. Owen this time. Mara called me 3 times today. She says you're not answering. She's really worried. I called him back. He answered on the first ring. Grant, what the heck is going on? They left me at a gas station, Owen. Drove away and laughed about it. Posted it online. Long silence. They what? You heard me. I don't even know what to say. That's insane. Yeah. Where are you now? Handling it. Handling what? Everything I should have handled years ago. He was quiet again. Then, you're not staying silent because you're weak, are you? No. Good. Because they don't deserve your silence. They deserve exactly what's coming. I'm not sure what's coming yet. Yes, you are. I can hear it in your voice. He was right. I knew exactly what was coming. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. Listen, Owen continued. You need anything? Place to stay? Money? A lawyer? You call me. Don't try to do this alone. I won't, but I need to finish this my way. Understood. Just be careful. Always am. After we hung up, I looked at my phone one more time. 7 missed calls from Mara, a dozen texts, nothing apologetic, nothing acknowledging what they'd done, just demands that I stop being difficult and come home. I turned off my phone and headed back to the motel. Tomorrow I'd finalize everything. And the day after that, the world would see exactly who I was. Not a burden, not an anchor, not an object. The man who built the system they all relied on and never bothered to thank. The coffee shop on 5th Street had good Wi-Fi and better coffee. I found a corner table away from the morning rush and opened my laptop. 3 days had passed since the gas station. 3 days of careful documentation, quiet planning, and methodical preparation. The quarterly system review was 12 hours away. Everything was ready. Almost. I drafted an email to our company's operations director, Lyle Drummond. Simple, professional. Requesting an urgent meeting to discuss licensing compliance and potential security breaches. I didn't mention Colin by name, didn't mention Mara, just facts. Send scheduled for 7 a.m. Next, an email to the city's Transportation Oversight Committee. Formal notice that I was filing a complaint regarding unauthorized access attempts to critical infrastructure software. I attached the IP logs, the access attempt records, and a request for an investigation. Send scheduled for 7:30 a.m. Third, a message to the local news station's investigative team. They'd been running a series on corporate ethics and intellectual property disputes. I offered myself as a source for a story about small businesses trying to steal proprietary technology from individual creators. Included just enough detail to make it interesting. Send scheduled for 8 a.m. I checked each email 3 times, spelling, tone, attachments. Everything had to be perfect. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on an hour ago, and the messages had flooded in. Mara, mostly. Colin. Even Tessa, though hers was just 1 line. This is really immature. The most recent was from Mara. I talked to a lawyer. If you don't come back and sign the business transfer papers, Colin's going to lose the investor meeting. You're sabotaging your own stepson. How can you be this selfish? I read it twice. Business transfer papers. They'd actually drafted papers. They wanted me to sign over the rights to my algorithm so Colin could sell it to investors, and they thought I was the problem for not showing up. I saved the message. Screenshot. Backed up to cloud storage. Then I typed a response. I'll be home soon. We'll talk then. Short, non-committal, just enough to make her think I was coming around. The barista called out someone's order. A couple at the next table laughed about something on their phone. Normal life happening around me while I sat in the eye of a storm I'd created. I closed my laptop and walked outside. The afternoon sun was warm, the streets busy with lunch hour traffic. I headed toward my workplace. a warehouse district on the east side where the logistics planning office occupied the second floor of an old brick building. Security waved me through. I took the stairs 2 at a time. The office was quiet. Most people were at lunch. I sat at my desk, the one I'd occupied for 8 years, and logged into the system. The quarterly review dashboard opened, green lights across the board, every route optimized, every delivery schedule running smoothly, the algorithm humming along like it always did, invisible but essential. I pulled up the administrative panel and reviewed the access logs one more time. The unauthorized attempts had stopped 2 days ago. Colin had probably realized he wasn't getting in and switched strategies. Hence the business transfer papers. I made one final documentation packet. Everything from the last 3 days, plus historical context going back years, proof of authorship, proof of ownership, proof of attempted theft. Then I did something I'd been thinking about since yesterday. I scheduled an automatic system notification. If anyone tried to access the algorithm without proper authorization during the review window, the entire network would flag it and send alerts to every stakeholder, city, county, company, legal, transportation oversight, fail-safe, protection, evidence. Lyle Drummond appeared in the doorway, coffee in hand. "Grant, didn't expect to see you today. I thought you were taking the week off." "Change of plans, just making sure everything's set for tomorrow's review." He nodded, leaning against the doorframe. "You know, I got a weird call this morning. Someone asking about whether the Hail routing system was proprietary or company-owned. Wouldn't leave a name." "What did you tell them?" "The truth, that you own it, we license it, and anyone who wants to use it needs to go through official channels." He sipped his coffee. "You having trouble with someone?" "Maybe. I'll know more after tomorrow." "Well, if you need company backing on anything, let me know. We've got lawyers for this kind of thing." "I appreciate that." He studied me for a moment. "You okay, Grant? You seem different." "I'm fine, just focused." "All right. Let me know if you need anything." After he left, I finished the last of my setup work and logged out. 5 p.m. The office was emptying. People heading home to families, to dinners, to lives where they mattered. I took the bus back downtown and walked to Owen's place, a townhouse in a quiet neighborhood with old trees and well-maintained sidewalks. He answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking concerned. "You look like you haven't slept." "I've slept fine." He stepped aside to let me in. "You want food? I've got leftover pasta." "Sure." We sat at his kitchen table, eating in comfortable silence. Owen didn't push. He just let me exist without demands or judgment. Finally, I said, "Tomorrow everything changes. You ready for that?" "I think so." "What do you need from me?" "Just be available. I might need a place to stay after this." He nodded. "Door's always open. You know that." I stayed for another hour, then headed back to the motel. The room felt smaller than before. Or maybe I just felt bigger. More solid, more present. I set 3 alarms on my phone. 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Then I lay down on the bed and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, the city would wake up to discover that the invisible man they'd taken for granted was actually the foundation everything else was built on, and once they understood that, there would be no taking it back. No apologies would be enough. No explanations would matter. The system would speak for itself. The alarm went off at 4 a.m. I was already awake. I showered, dressed in clean clothes I'd bought yesterday, a pressed shirt, dark slacks, nothing flashy but professional, and checked my phone. The scheduled emails had sent. 37 new messages waited in my inbox. Lyle. Grant, call me ASAP. Legal has questions. Stevens from Legal. We need to meet before the review. This is urgent. City Transportation Office. Received your complaint. Inspector assigned. Requires immediate consultation. And from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hale, this is Dana Winters from Channel 7 News. We're very interested in your story. Can you come to the studio today? We're preparing a segment for tonight's broadcast. I made coffee in the motel room's tiny machine and sat by the window, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and red. The quarterly review started at 9 a.m. That gave me 5 hours. I called Stevens first. He answered immediately. Grant, I've been up since 3 going through what you sent. This is bigger than I thought. How big? Your stepson tried to register a business using your algorithm as the foundation. Your wife's name is on the paperwork. They've been shopping it to investors for weeks. If you hadn't caught this, they would have signed deals using stolen property. Can you stop it? Already done. Filed emergency injunctions this morning. Their business registration is frozen. Any investor agreements are void, and we're pursuing a formal investigation into the access attempts. Good. Grant, I have to ask, why didn't you come to us sooner? I needed to be sure, and I needed them to think I was gone. Silence. Then, smart. Cold, but smart. When can we meet? I've got a meeting with the city inspector at 8. Can you be there? Yes. I'll text you the address. Next call, Dana Winters. Mr. Hale, thank you for calling back. We've reviewed your materials and we want you on tonight's broadcast. The segment is about intellectual property theft and how small inventors protect their work. Your case is perfect. What do you need from me? Interview at the studio. Noon. We'll have documents ready to display on screen, your patents, the business registration filing, everything. It'll be powerful. I'll be there. One more thing. Do you want to remain anonymous? We can blur your face, distort your voice. I thought about that. About staying hidden. About protecting myself from the fallout. No. Use my name. Show my face. I want everyone to know exactly who did this. Understood. See you at noon. I grabbed my laptop and headed to a diner for breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee so strong it could strip paint. At 7:30, my phone rang. Mara. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought about how this would go, and I picked up. Grant. Finally, where have you been? Her voice was sharp, annoyed, not worried, not apologetic, just irritated that I'd inconvenienced her. Around. Around? Do you have any idea what you've done? Colin's investor meeting is this afternoon, and now the whole business is frozen. The lawyers say you filed some kind of complaint. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Yes. You're sabotaging your own family over what? Hurt feelings? We left you at a gas station for one day, and you're acting like we committed some terrible act against you. Grow up. I let her talk. Listened to her justify it. Rationalize it. Make it my fault. When she finally paused, I said, I built that algorithm. I own it. Colin tried to steal it. He didn't steal anything. We're family. You should have just given it to him. Why? Because that's what families do. They support each other. Like you supported me at the gas station? Silence. Mara, the news is running a story tonight. Channel 7. You should watch. What story? You'll see. I hung up. The meeting with Stevens and the city inspector happened in a conference room at City Hall. They'd pulled every relevant document, my patents, the licensing agreements, the access logs showing Colin's attempted intrusion, the business registration with Mara's name attached. The inspector, a serious man named Paulson, took notes while Stevens walked through the timeline. This is clear-cut intellectual property theft, Paulson said. The fact that it's family makes it messier emotionally, but legally it's straightforward. Mr. Hale, you're within your rights to pursue this. I intend to. We'll need your testimony for the formal investigation. Can you provide that? Yes. Stevens added, we're also recommending that the city issue a statement clarifying that the Hale routing system is privately owned and licensed. Too many people think it's public infrastructure. Paulson nodded. I'll draft something today. The meeting ended at 10:30. I had 90 minutes before the studio. I walked through downtown, letting the morning sun warm my face. People rushed past, business suits, construction workers, students heading to the university, all of them relying on systems they never thought about. Traffic lights timed perfectly. Delivery trucks appearing exactly when needed. Emergency vehicles reaching destinations in record time. My system, my work. Invisible until someone tried to take it. The Channel 7 building was glass and steel, modern and imposing. Dana Winters met me in the lobby, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. Thank you for coming, Mr. Hale. We're going to do this right. She led me to a studio on the 3rd floor. Cameras, lights. A desk setup that looked professional but approachable. They fitted me with a microphone and adjusted the lighting. We go live at 6, Dana explained. But we're recording the interview now for editing. To just speak naturally. Tell your story. We'll handle the rest. The interview took an hour. She asked about the algorithm, how I'd developed it, why it mattered, what it did for the community. Then she shifted to the personal side, the family, the abandonment, the betrayal. I answered everything honestly. No drama, no exaggeration, just facts. When we finished, she smiled. This is going to resonate with people. You're not the only person who's felt invisible while holding everything together. I know. Your family will see this. Are you prepared for that? Yes. Good. Because once this airs, there's no taking it back. I don't want to take it back. I left the studio at 2 p.m. and went back to Owen's townhouse. He was working from home, laptop open on the kitchen table. "How'd it go?" he asked. "It's done. The story airs at 6. You want to watch it here?" "Yeah, if that's okay." "Of course." We ordered pizza. Just one, because I wasn't trying to accommodate 4 different opinions anymore. We ate and talked about nothing important. Baseball, weather, a movie he'd seen last week. At 5:55, we turned on the TV. Channel 7 News. The anchor, a polished man in his 50s, smiled at the camera. Tonight, an exclusive investigation into intellectual property theft and a family betrayal that highlights how easily innovators can be taken advantage of, even by those closest to them. Dana Winters has the story. Cut to Dana in the studio, my face on the screen beside her. Meet Grant Hale, a logistics planner whose algorithm revolutionized freight transportation across 3 counties. But when his family tried to steal his work and build a business on his foundation, he made a choice that would expose everything. The segment showed documents, my patents, the licensing agreement, the business registration with Colin and Mara's names. It showed the attempted access logs. It showed testimonials from city officials about how critical my system was to daily operations. Then it cut to me. "They left me at a gas station," I said on screen. "Drove away, laughed about it, posted it online, and while I was sitting there, they were planning to steal the only thing I'd ever created that mattered." Dana's voiceover. But Grant Hale didn't react the way his family expected. He didn't beg, he didn't chase, he documented, and today, their business plans collapsed under the weight of his evidence. The segment showed the injunctions, the frozen business registration, Stevens explaining that this was a clear case of attempted theft. Final shot, me in the studio, calm and steady. I spent years being invisible, being the person they forgot about until they needed something, and I'm done with that. My work speaks for itself. Dana concluded. The Hale family declined to comment for this story, but the legal actions speak volumes. Grant Hale has reclaimed not just his intellectual property, but his dignity. For Channel 7 News, I'm Dana Winters. The segment ended. The anchor transitioned to the next story. Owen and I sat in silence. Finally, he said, "They're watching this right now." "I know. They're losing their minds." "Probably." My phone started ringing. Mara, Colin. Numbers I didn't recognize. Text messages flooding in. I turned the phone off and set it on the table. "You okay?" Owen asked. I thought about that. Really considered it. "Yeah," I said. "I'm okay." Because for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their weight. Wasn't invisible. Wasn't waiting for them to acknowledge me. I was just free. The next morning started with 63 missed calls and over 200 text messages. I scrolled through them at Owen's kitchen table, coffee cooling in my hand. Most were from Mara. Angry at first, then desperate, then threatening. Colin's messages were shorter but vicious. Tessa had sent one that simply said, "Hope you're happy," with a screenshot of her follower count dropping. There were also messages from numbers I didn't recognize, reporters requesting interviews, a lawyer claiming to represent the Weaver family interests, and demanding I cease all legal actions immediately. Someone from my old college asking if I was the same Grant Hale they'd known. Owen poured himself coffee and sat across from me. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in years." "That's the adrenaline. Wait until it wears off." "Maybe." My phone rang again. This time I recognized the number, Stevens from Company Legal. "Grant, have you seen the news this morning?" "No. Why?" Channel 7's segment went viral overnight. It's been picked up by 3 national outlets. Your story is everywhere. I set my coffee down. That's unexpected. It resonates. People are tired of seeing creators get exploited by family. You've become a symbol of something bigger. He paused. Also, we've received 14 inquiries about licensing your algorithm from companies across the country. Big names. The exposure has made your system very valuable. I'll need to think about that. Of course. But Grant, you're in a position now where you can write your own terms. Don't undersell yourself. After we hung up, I pulled up the news on Owen's laptop. The Channel 7 segment had indeed spread. Comment sections full of people sharing their own stories about family exploitation. Think pieces about intellectual property rights. Even a trending hashtag. And there, buried in the coverage, was something I hadn't expected. A statement from Mara's lawyer claiming I'd abandoned my family responsibilities, and that my actions were vindictive and calculated to cause maximum harm to innocent people pursuing legitimate business opportunities. I read it twice, then showed Owen. He shook his head. Innocent people. Unbelievable. They actually believe it. Of course they do. Admitting the truth would require them to see themselves clearly. Easier to make you the bad guy. My phone rang again. Lyle Drummond this time. Grant, I know you're dealing with a lot, but I need you to come in. We've got city officials, county supervisors, and the mayor's office all requesting meetings about the routing system. They want assurances it's secure and that there won't be disruptions. There won't be. The system's solid. I know that. But they need to hear it from you directly. Can you be here this afternoon? Yeah. 2 o'clock work? Perfect. And Grant, whatever you need from us, legal support, security, anything, you've got it. The meeting at company headquarters was held in the main conference room. 20 people packed around a long table, city officials, company executives, legal representatives, and 2 people I didn't recognize who turned out to be from the State Transportation Authority. I sat at the head of the table, laptop open, and walked them through everything. The algorithm's architecture, its integration points with city and county infrastructure, security protocols, redundancy systems, licensing arrangements. They asked good questions, technical ones, legal ones, questions about succession planning and what would happen if I got hit by a bus tomorrow. I answered all of them calmly and thoroughly. The mayor, a woman named Foster, who I'd only seen on TV before, leaned forward. Mr. Hale, I want to be direct. Your system is critical infrastructure. The city needs guarantees that personal issues won't affect operations. They won't. My work has always been separate from my personal life. Even now, with everything that's happened, especially now, the system runs independently. It doesn't need me to function day to day. It just needs proper authorization for changes and licensing for use. Foster nodded. And the attempted unauthorized access? Blocked before any damage was done. I've implemented additional security measures. It won't happen again. One of the state officials spoke up. We'd like to discuss expanding the system statewide. Would you be interested in that conversation? I paused. A week ago, I would have deferred to Lyle or company leadership, would have downplayed my role. Not anymore. Yes, but any expansion would need to be negotiated directly with me with proper compensation and licensing terms. Understood. The meeting lasted 3 hours. When it ended, several people approached me individually, offering congratulations, expressing support, asking about consulting opportunities. Lyle walked me out. You handled that perfectly. They came in worried. They left reassured and impressed. Good. Grant, I've been meaning to say, I should have paid more attention to what was happening. I knew your family didn't appreciate you, but I didn't realize how bad it was. It's not your fault. Still, for what it's worth, everyone here sees your value. We always have. I left the office as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the same colors as that night at the gas station, but everything else was different now. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mr. Hale, this is Jeremy Stokes from the Washington Post. We're working on a feature about intellectual property protection for individual creators. Would you be willing to speak with us? I saved the number, but didn't respond yet. Another text, this time from Dana Winters. Following up on the story, Mara Hale's lawyer gave a statement. Want a chance to respond? I called her back. Grant, thanks for calling. Did you see the statement? I did. Want to address it? Not really. Everything I needed to say is already public record. Legal documents, access logs, the business registration with their names on it. People can decide for themselves who's telling the truth. Smart. Sometimes silence is the strongest response. She paused. One more thing. We've been contacted by several people with similar stories. Family members stealing from creators, businesses built on other people's work. Would you be willing to be part of a broader investigation? Maybe. Let me think about it. Fair enough. And Grant, you did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I drove back to Owen's place. He'd loaned me his spare car, and found him grilling burgers in the backyard. Hungry? He asked. Starving. We ate outside as the evening cooled, talking about nothing important. Baseball again, his job, whether we should watch the game tonight or just put on a movie. Normal conversation, no judgment, no demands. My phone rang one more time. I glanced at the screen. Mara. Owen saw my expression. You going to answer? I thought about it. About what she might say, about whether there was anything left worth hearing. No. I sent the call to voicemail and turned the phone face down on the table. Whatever she wanted to say, it was too late. The papers were filed, the injunctions were in place, the story was told. Nothing she could offer now would change what had already happened. And that was exactly how it needed to be. 1 week after the broadcast, I moved into a new apartment downtown. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, decent kitchen, windows that actually let in sunlight. Owen helped me move the few possessions I'd bought since leaving the motel. We made 3 trips total. That was it. "This is depressing," Owen said, looking at the mostly empty living room. "You lived with them for 5 years, and this is all you've got." "Most of what I owned is still at the house, but I don't want any of it." "Not even your clothes?" "Already replaced them." He sat on the floor, back against the wall. "So what now? You going to let them keep everything?" "I'll go back once. Get my personal documents, a few books. The rest doesn't matter." "That's very zen of you." "It's practical. Starting over means actually starting over." My phone buzzed. A text from Stevens. "Mara's lawyer reached out. They want to negotiate a settlement to avoid trial." I showed Owen. "What do they want?" he asked. "Probably to make this go away quietly." "You going to let them?" "Depends on the terms." The settlement meeting happened 3 days later in Stevens' office. Mara showed up with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Kowalski who looked like he charged $400 an hour. Colin came too, sitting beside his mother with his arms crossed and his jaw tight. I sat across from them, Stevens beside me. Kowalski started. "Mr. Hale, my clients acknowledge there may have been some misunderstanding regarding the ownership of certain intellectual property." "There was no misunderstanding," I said. "They tried to steal my work." Mara's face reddened. "We're family, Grant. You could have just talked to us." "I did talk to you for 5 years. You stopped listening somewhere around year 2. Kowalski raised a hand. "Let's focus on resolution. My clients are willing to dissolve the business registration, sign a formal acknowledgement of your ownership, and issue a public apology." "In exchange for?" "You drop all legal complaints and agree not to pursue further action." Stevens jumped in. "That's not enough. Your clients didn't just attempt theft. They publicly humiliated Mr. Hale, abandoned him, and caused significant emotional distress." "We drove away as a joke," Colin snapped. "We were going to come back." "After 3 days?" I asked. "We got busy." Mara leaned forward. "Grant, please. This has gone far enough. Colin's reputation is destroyed. Tessa lost half her followers. I can't show my face at the club anymore. You've made your point." "My point?" "Yes. You wanted us to understand that you're important. We get it now. Can we please just move on?" I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman I'd married thinking we'd build something together. At the person who'd reduced me to furniture and then tried to profit from my work. "No," I said. Kowalski tried again. "Mr. Hale, be reasonable. Pursuing this will cost everyone time and money. Surely we can reach an agreement." "Here's my agreement," I interrupted. "They sign the acknowledgement of ownership. They dissolve the business, they pay my legal fees, and they stay away from me permanently." "That's harsh." "That's fair." Mara stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Come on, Colin, we don't need him." But Colin stayed seated, staring at the table. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "Mom, we lost. He has all the proof. The lawyers already told us we can't win. So we just give him everything? We give him back what was always his." She looked at her son like he'd betrayed her. Then she turned that look on me. "You've destroyed this family." "I documented the truth. You destroyed it yourselves." She left, slamming the door. Colin sat there a moment longer, then followed without meeting my eyes. Kowalski gathered his papers. "I'll have the documents drawn up by end of week." After they left, Stevens leaned back in his chair. "That went well?" "Did it? You got everything you wanted. Clean break, no obligations, full ownership protection." "Yeah. You don't sound happy." "I'm not unhappy. I'm just tired." He nodded. "Understandable. Go home, rest. This part is over." But it wasn't over. Not quite. I drove to the house that afternoon, the place I'd lived for 5 years but never felt was mine. Mara's car was gone. I used my key and walked inside. The living room was exactly as I'd left it. Family photos on the walls, none featuring me prominently. Furniture Mara had picked out. Colin's jacket draped over a chair. I went to the guest room where I'd kept my personal things, opened the closet, found the box of documents I needed, birth certificate, old tax returns, photographs from before I'd met Mara. I took one photo out, me and Owen at a lake, maybe 10 years ago. We were younger, smiling, holding up fish we'd caught, back when life was simpler. I pocketed it and left everything else. In my old dresser, I found a notebook I'd kept during the first year of developing the routing algorithm. Page after page of calculations, sketches, notes to myself. The foundation of everything. I took that too. Nothing else mattered. I was walking out when Tessa came through the front door, stopping short when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" "Getting my things." She looked at the box under my arm. "That's it? That's all you're taking?" "That's all that's mine. Mom says you're trying to bankrupt us." "I'm protecting what I built." "You're being vindictive." I studied her, this 20-year-old who'd spent years treating me like hired help. "You know what's interesting, Tessa? I never asked you to like me. I never demanded respect. I just expected basic human decency. And you couldn't even manage that. We weren't that bad. You recorded me being abandoned and posted it for entertainment." She had the grace to look away. I didn't think you'd see it. That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" "That actions have consequences, and you're old enough to understand that now." I walked past her to the door. She didn't try to stop me. Outside, the evening air was cool and clear. I put the box in my car and drove away from that house for the last time. No anger, no regret, just relief. 3 weeks passed. The legal documents were signed, the business registration was dissolved. The public apology was issued, brief and clearly written by lawyers, but it existed. I settled into my new apartment and my new routine. Work during the day, quiet evenings, calls with Owen. Occasionally meeting with reporters or lawyers handling licensing expansion discussions. The viral attention faded, as viral things do, but the opportunities remained. A company in Seattle wanted to license the algorithm for their West Coast operations. A university in Boston invited me to speak at a conference on logistics innovation. The State Transportation Authority offered a consulting contract worth more than I'd made in the past 3 years combined. I accepted the consulting contract, declined the speaking engagement for now, negotiated terms with Seattle. My bank account grew, my calendar filled with meetings that actually mattered, and Mara's lawyer sent one final message. "My clients wish to inform you that Mrs. Hale is filing for separation. Paperwork will be sent to your attorney." I forwarded it to Stevens with one word: "Good." But the real change wasn't external, it was internal. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do, started making decisions based on what made sense for me, not what made others comfortable, started understanding that being overlooked had been a choice I'd allowed, and I wasn't allowing it anymore. Owen noticed. "You're different." "How?" "More present, like you're actually here instead of just occupying space." That's a good way to put it. We were having dinner at his place, a weekly thing we'd started. No agenda, just brothers reconnecting. "You think you'll ever talk to them again?" he asked. "Mara, Colin, Tessa?" "Yeah." "Maybe someday, if they actually change. But I'm not holding my breath." "Fair enough." My phone rang. Dana Winters. "Grant, sorry to call at night. You have a minute?" "Sure. What's up?" "I'm following up on the broader investigation I mentioned, creators being exploited by family. We found a dozen similar cases, some worse than yours. I want to do a special report, and I'd like you to be part of it. Not as the main focus, just as one voice among many." "What would that involve?" "An interview, maybe 20 minutes, talking about your experience and how you protected yourself. The goal is to help others recognize the warning signs and know they have options." I thought about that, about being one voice among many, about helping people who might be sitting in their own gas stations wondering if they mattered. "Okay, I'll do it." "Great. I'll send details tomorrow." After we hung up, Owen asked, "What was that about?" I explained. He nodded slowly. "You're going to be a whole thing now, aren't you? The guy who stood up to family exploitation." "I hope not. I just want to move forward." "Too late. You're already a thing." But he was smiling, and so was I. Because being a thing meant being visible, meant mattering, meant people saw value in what I'd done and what I'd built. And after years of being treated like furniture, that wasn't a bad thing to be. The special report aired a month later. 12 stories, 12 creators who'd been exploited by family members, siblings, parents, spouses, children, all of them finding ways to reclaim their work and their dignity. My segment was in the middle. Dana asked me what I'd learned. "That silence isn't the same as weakness," I said. "Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding everything together, and when they stop holding it, everyone else finally understands what they've lost." The report generated more attention, more stories, more people reaching out to share their experiences. And slowly, the narrative shifted from man abandoned by family to creator protecting his work, to something bigger, people reclaiming their value. I was okay with that, especially when I got a message from someone I didn't know, a woman named Claire who'd seen the report. I've been letting my brother use my photography without credit or payment for 3 years. Your story made me realize I don't have to. I sent him a cease and desist yesterday. Thank you for showing me it's possible to say no. I saved that message, because that was the point. Not revenge, not punishment, just proof that invisible people could become visible. And once they were visible, they couldn't be dismissed anymore. 6 months after the gas station, Channel 7 wanted to do a follow-up segment. Where is he now? Kind of thing? I almost said no. Then Dana mentioned something interesting. We've been contacted by the mayor's office. They want to present you with a community service award, recognition for how your system has improved city operations and reduced traffic incidents. Would you be willing to accept it? We'd cover the ceremony. I met with Mayor Foster the following week. Her office was exactly what you'd expect. Flags, photos with important people, a desk that looked like it cost more than my car. Mr. Hale, thank you for coming. She gestured to a chair. I wanted to speak with you personally before the ceremony. I appreciate that. Your story resonated with a lot of people in this city. But more than that, your work has had measurable impact. Traffic incident response times are down 17% since we implemented your full system integration. Delivery efficiency is up. Emergency services save an average of 90 seconds per call. That's good to hear. It is, and it's made me think about how often we overlook the people doing essential work, how we take infrastructure for granted until something breaks. She leaned forward. I don't want that to happen again, so I'm establishing a new position, Director of Transportation Innovation, and I'd like you to consider accepting it. I blinked. That's unexpected. You've proven you can build systems that work. You understand both the technical side and the human side. And frankly, you have credibility right now that would help us implement changes people might otherwise resist. I'll take it, I said. She smiled. Excellent. We'll make the announcement at the award ceremony. The ceremony was held in the City Council chambers. More people attended than I expected. City officials, Transportation Authority members, colleagues from my company, reporters, and a surprising number of ordinary citizens who'd seen the news coverage and wanted to show support. I sat in the front row, uncomfortable in the suit Owen had helped me pick out, while various speakers talked about innovation and community service and the importance of recognizing unsung heroes. Then Mayor Foster took the podium. We're here today to honor Grant Hale, whose work has quite literally kept this city moving, but this story is about more than one person's achievements. It's about what happens when we stop taking people for granted, when we recognize value instead of assuming it will always be freely given. She presented the award, a plaque with my name and a description of the routing system's impact. We shook hands, cameras flashed. Then she announced my new position. The applause was genuine. I could see it in people's faces. Respect, not obligation. Recognition, not pity. Afterward, a reception. People approached to congratulate me, ask questions about the system, share their own stories about being overlooked. Dana Winters appeared at my elbow. Quick interview for the follow-up segment? Sure. We found a quiet corner. She asked the standard questions. How does it feel? What's next? Any advice for others? Then she asked something different. Do you feel vindicated? Vindicated suggests I was trying to prove something to them. I wasn't. I was trying to prove something to myself. Which was? That I mattered. That my work had value. That being quiet didn't mean being weak. I paused. And I did prove it. Not because they finally acknowledged it, but because I stopped needing them to. She smiled. That's perfect, thank you. The reception continued. More handshakes, more congratulations. And then, near the refreshment table, I saw her. Mara. She was alone, standing by the wall, watching. When our eyes met, she didn't look away. I excused myself and walked over. I didn't expect to see you here. I heard about the award. I wanted to... She trailed off, then started again. I wanted to see who you became. I'm the same person I always was. No, you're not. She looked past me at the room full of people treating me with respect. You were always this person. I just couldn't see it. Does that change anything? No, but I need you to know that I understand now. What we did to you, what I let happen. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed to say it out loud. I studied her face. Older now. Tired in ways that had nothing to do with age. It's too late for that, I said. She nodded slowly. I know. Behind her, through the open doorway, I could see Colin and Tessa waiting in the hallway. They weren't coming in, just standing there, watching from a distance like they were afraid to get closer. Good. They should be afraid. Mara's eyes were wet now. We destroyed something we didn't even know we had. No, I said quietly. You destroyed someone, and he rebuilt himself without you. The words hung in the air between us. Final. Absolute. Mayor Foster's voice cut through the room. Grant, we need you for the photo session. I turned away from Mara without another word and walked toward the podium where photographers were setting up. City officials gathered around me, cameras clicked, people smiled, and behind me I heard the door close as Mara left. I stood in front of those cameras, holding my award, surrounded by people who finally understood what I'd always been worth. The system I built kept running, the city kept moving, and I kept winning.